Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk. I'm Heidi Smith. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based in the United Kingdom, and today I'm working with the lovely Flowers of Friendship Flowers of Friendship stamp set and the Flowers and Leaves punches to make this pretty box here with this stuff kind of bit of a crown top. Similar things have been around for a while, but I just thought it was a lovely way to use a little some scraps of paper I had from a New Horizons DSP. So this is a lovely DSP that is kind of watercolour effects, and you can see lovely scenes on the one side and then almost sort of water and salt effect on the reverse. Really pretty colours, everything from Fresh Freesia to Blackberry Bliss, Pale Papaya. We've got other colours in there. We've got Garden Green, Misty Moonlight is the blue, some Old Olive, bit of pale papaya, Polished Pink, bit of Soft Succulent, lots and lots of different colours, but absolutely beautiful papers which work in so many different ways, but not just for doing card fronts or for creating scenes, because actually we can do some really fun things with this using just our little offcuts. So that's what I've got. I've literally got some I had some offcuts of the Polished Pink, which I've used here at the top with the open weave ribbon that you can see, and then the fabulous Flowers of Friendship. And this stamp set comes with a coordinating punch in a bundle, the Flowers and Leaves, and it also coordinates with the flowers and the sentimental swirls as well. And I've just used a single flower here with the Label Me Fancy punch for that layer as well. So I've also used my Stampin' blends, so I thought I've used Polished Pink here, so sticking with the in colours I'd use a bit of Pale Papaya, and I hadn't actually got the in colour, which I think we've got the Soft Succulent, which I hadn't got, but I've got some Mint Macaron, which I just thought added some pale leaves onto that, as you can see. So yeah, so that's what we're going to create. As always, I've done a template, and this is what I tend to do for both boxes and for and for fancy fold cards. I create myself a template. I then file that, so I've always got it to use, and I pop the measurements on there as well. And it just makes it a little bit easier if I want to recreate a project another time. So those are the blends I'm using. That's the stamp set. So let's crack on with our project. So you're obviously going to need your stamping trimmer. You're also going to need either a pencil or an erasable marker for making some marks. You'll want some ribbon and a small hole punch for the top as well. I'm cutting my A4 card down to 25 centimetres. And obviously this is what I will use for punching those other little bits out. On the portrait side, I'm just going to score at 6 centimetres, and then at 6, at 12, at 18, and at 24. So in terms of inches, 10.5 by 8.25 inches. You're going to score at 2.5 on the short side, and then at 2.5, 5, 7.5, and 10 inches. Now we want to do some marking. So you're going to grab yourself a ruler. You might find it easier to actually burnish some of these folds first, just so you can see them a little bit more easily. I'm just using my bone fold to run over those. So what you're going to do is you're going to mark at 6 centimetres on each of those vertical score lines. So you see, I'm just marking a dot, so hopefully you can see that. So I'm just measuring down from the top 6 centimetres and putting a dot on each of those score lines, and at the very end as well, so on the sort of cut edge. And then you're going to use a ruler and your scoring tool just to score some diagonals. So I'm just taking from my mark point to the top of the next score line, and then score diagonally in the opposite direction. So you want to be careful of is this one here on the end. You're coming from the score line down to that point. Like so. And then what we want to do then is score these vertical lines. So I'm just going to bring my trimmer back in. And this is at 3 centimetres. So I'm just going to score from where those cross. So if I just to put a mark there just to show you, so where those two diagonals intersect is where you're going to score up from. So it's at 3, it's at 9 centimetres. At 15. And then at 21. So that's 1 1/4, 3 3/4, at 6 1/4 and 8 3/4 inches. Okay. So once you've done that, you can erase those marks. And then while it's flat, I would just go in and reinforce those creases. So because you've got your diagonals, all you're going to do is you'll fold them, and because you've got the vertical score line, you'll find they will fold quite naturally. She says, obviously finding one that doesn't. There you go. And so just you'll find those will crease. There we go. And next one. So just fold it up and reinforce those. So again, hopefully you can see that. I'm just creasing that up and then going in my bone folder. And the last one. And you'll see I'm always folding away. So where I've scored, I fold away from that score line. And then these ones, just reinforce with your fingers, like so. And once you've done that, you've actually got some quite nice panels there you can see for our stamping. So this is just to help me position them as well. So I'm just popping a post-it note along that bottom line. And then if I do end up stamping just below, it isn't going to be noticeable either. And it's tucked over anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. I'm coming in with some Memento ink on my image, doing ink pad to stamp, because it's a large stamp. So just tapping over that. And again, so just centering that in the middle of each of those panels as we go along. And say by doing the scoring first before you do the stamping, it means you can get that nice placement of all of those as well. Okay, so let's allow that to dry slightly. Just notice another mark, just get rid of that. And while it's while it's drying, we can just do our other bits of stamping as well. So a couple of things. I've actually got my pale papaya, because what I want to do is stamp my flower to go on, and I want to do my sentiment as well. So this strip is probably a little wider than I would normally use for the flower, but I've got a narrower piece here, and I'm just going to stamp that. You can see it diagonally, and the reason I do that is it's around about a 3 centimetre piece, because what I can do then is come in and just line that up. Can I come in from the other side without interfering? I might have just stamped it a little bit close. Oh no, I'm okay. So what I'm doing is I'm coming in from one side and punching, and then I'm coming in again to my next one. So hopefully I've left enough gap so that when I punch it I'm not going to get... And that's just that I've got a spare. And I'm stamping that in the pale papaya because I don't want sort of harsh black lines in there. If you haven't got pale papaya, then stamp it in Memento Black. It will be fine. Obviously that's good for stamping with blends anyway. What I also want to do is stamp my sentiment. So I'm going to use the same one that I used before, which is my lovely Thanks for Everything one. I'm just going to ink that up. Then pop that in and just make sure that that's aligned in the centre of the central space. I'm actually going to pop it down towards the bottom because I'm going to trim some of that off as well. And I'm just going to grab a little bit of my pale papaya scrap and again punch myself out an extra little label. Like so. As I always said, if you have any dexterity issues, then it's actually better for your punch if you pop it down flat, then feed the card and use the flat of your hand as well, and that help make sure your punch doesn't twist. But certainly something to do if you do struggle at all with any power in your hands. All I'm doing then is just trimming off the top and bottom section of that label, and I'm going to add that onto my pale papaya piece of cardstock. Just use a little bit of Tombow on the back here and line that up on top. Tombow just allows me to wriggle it in place. And so now we can get on with our colouring. So I'm going to come in with my light and dark pale papaya. You could come in then with something like deeper pumpkin pie if you wanted a deeper colour. I'm just going to keep it very simple to the two and kind of assume that you've just got, one set of blends that you're working with. Obviously they're a combo pair, so you always get the light and the dark whenever you've got them. I don't do too much colouring in one go, so I'm just doing a sort of 2 or 3 flowers, and then I'm going to go in and do some shading, because that obviously means you'll use less of the sort of alcohol to do the blending. So I'm coming in with the dark bullet tip, which is obviously a bit deeper, and I'm just going over where those lines are on the flower. And the base a little bit. And then I can just come over again with that brush tip to add that shading in. And so by following those lines that are on the stamps, you're going to get some shading. It's already there to create that, so let's go with it. As you can see, it's starting to come to life already. So again, let's go in and do my other flowers. With the brush tips, I try and keep those quite sort of flat, not using the tip too much. Obviously on a brush tip, if you're coming down on it, that brush tip will break down a little bit more. So I try, but I remember to keep that sort of flatter. So as I said, you know, if you've got other colours, there's plenty of colours in the range that will blend with this. To get those sort of deep shades. But the in colours are always a good place to start with your blends, particularly this year's. I mean, I think they just work so well together. Loving the fresh freesia and the polished pink. And I said I'm not normally I don't use oranges so much. It's not a colour that I wear, so I think I naturally tend to go towards the pinks a little bit more. Okay, now we've done now we can go in and do our leaves. So I'm just going to use my light mint macaron for all of those to start off with. Now if you wanted to add some extra dimension, obviously what you could do is you could come in and punch the leaves. They're not an exact fit for some of the bigger leaves, but that doesn't matter. I think it looks really effective if you were to punch that out. I tend not to do that on boxes because I think, you know, they're more prone to getting sort of damaged as well, but quite nice on a front panel to add a little extra detail. Okay. Then again, come in with my bullet point to add the detail, a bit of shading. I'm actually going to come in there with my bullet tip just to go over those a little bit and fill in any little bits that I might have missed on my first kind of more rough colour. I'm just sort of using a little bit of a circling to go in there. And so you just sort of go, all you're doing is you're just not covering it entirely, you're just going over where you've added that extra colour just to help that blend in a little bit. And there we have it. Okay, so now what we want to do is create our panels to go across the top. So we're going to need, so this is really good to say, this is where it's great for scraps, because although I haven't got a scrap of this, all I want is something off the back. So I'm going to look at the orientation and think, well actually if I was going to use that for a scene, I'm just going to take a piece off the side here, or this side. So I'm cutting a piece that's 5 centimetres and then just cutting another 2 5 centimetre squares, and that leaves me still with a decent piece in this instance to use for a card front. And then I'm just going to cut these into 4 diagonally. Again, cutting a diagonal, I'm going to cut from the middle out on those. So what I mean by that is rather than starting at the bottom pushing up where you might sort of, go into the point, I start from the middle and go up and down, and then obviously thereafter I just line the point up that with that channel, and then again cut those into pieces. Just make sure you keep the pressure on the bar so it doesn't move when you're doing that. So there we go. So these are then going to decorate those top section of my box. So we'll just turn those over. And because they're a random pattern, we're not trying to line up patterns on these. I'm just going to use some Tombow, and I'm going to do sort of glue 2 or 3 at a time, or and then pop them in place. But you only need just a thin little bit around the outside edge of those. And then to line them up, I find the easiest way is to line them up against that centre score line. So you press it in the middle, and then you get, say, some fun little, just adds a bit of interest. Obviously, you know, if you wanted to, you could always stamp in those sections as well if you wanted to, add a little flower. I just felt I wanted a little bit more colour in there, something a little bit more solid. As I say, it's always nice to have something where you can use some of those scraps. This paper is absolutely beautiful, so using scraps isn't difficult. It's just a little piece of this on a card actually works really well. There's me getting to make myself all nice and gluey. So again, just pop those in. Just lining them up. As you can see, just at the top there, and then down in this very bottom section here. Might not be quite so visible to you. And then all I'm going to do is just very quickly, once they're in place, and this is why using Tombow is good, I'm going to quickly give those a bit of a burnish down, just to make sure they're well attached. Now before we actually glue the sides up, I'm going to come in with my hole punch. And where we're actually punching the holes is by closing these 2 points together, and it's at the centre there. So you're just going to come in with each of those. I say, if I can explain, so you're pinching your white piece together, your basic white, and then punch your hole closest to the pale papaya. And I'm saying this is easier to do when your box isn't made up. And there are plenty of hole punches around if you don't happen to have one of the old Stampin' Up ones. I'm then going to use either use Stampin' Seal Plus. I'm going to use my red tape and just put it on this outer edge here. Again, burnish it down well. And before I get any further, you're cutting straight up these bottom pieces, and just at a slight angle on the side, but these others I'm just coming straight up, as you can see. Alright, so I haven't coloured my flower. Okay, right, we'll do that last. I'll show you how I did that as well. So create your box, folding those up. Where the join is going to be the back, so you want to fold in the 2 side pieces first, and then what you want is here's the back piece, that's the next one that goes in, so the front piece is always last. And the reason for that is quite simply, I'm just putting a small amount on there because I'm going to keep that flat. That way with the box you've always got that nice front edge which just looks really pretty, and you don't get any cut edges showing. I'm going to do my flower now, so again I'm just going to grab my blends, and unusually obviously I'm not colouring on using Memento here, because obviously the alcohol will make those lines blend, but actually I want that because I've got a flower, so it really doesn't matter. And I'm just coming in with my darker blend in the centre there, and then again just blending that out a little bit as well. I'm going to just shape that a little, press it into the middle of my hand, and I'm going to pop a dimensional onto the back there to stick that on, along with a pearl on the front. So I'm going to put my pearl actually in the middle there, and then grab my dimensionals. And I'm going to pop a couple of dimensionals onto the back of my sentiment. And we're nearly there now. So pop that on to there. Get the dimensional back out of the way. And the reason I put my dimensional on a flower there is because I want it to overlap, but I don't want it to interfere with my sentiment, so I'm just popping it on the side there. With my ribbon, I've got, as I say, some of the lovely open weave ribbon, and all I'm going to do, just for ease, is pop it through a big knitter's needle, and I'm going to come through from the front here. So this is going to be my front. Squeeze all of those together, and you can just quickly and easily thread the ribbon through. I've probably threaded it in a little far there. Don't need quite that much ribbon. So again, just take your ribbon to a sensible kind of length so you can tie a bow. Like so. And then there we have a pretty kind of crown-topped box, is it? Trim your ribbon as you want. Grab my ribbon scissors. Actually, I've kept it a little shorter on this one. But there we have our pretty boxes ready for gifting. Really good size, as they stand quite nice, and just that extra little kind of curve that it creates, I just think makes it just a little bit different. So thank you for watching. Do come back and see me again soon, as always, and if you'd like to buy our lovely Flowers of Friendship stamp set, or the bundle with the punch, you can just follow the links which are below this video in the description. Click on the little down arrow, or pop along to my blog, and you'll find the links there as well to all of the items I've used. So thank you for watching. See you soon. Bye now.